Okay, welcome in anyone who's arriving. Okay, I am excited to be here today because this is a special time of year for me. Um, it is the Beltane ceremony. Yesterday was May 1st, and in a lot of places in Europe, they celebrate, especially in Celtic traditions, they celebrate. They call it Beltane, but it's Beltane in English, how we say it in America. But it's the day of the maypole, and it's May 1st, May Day. And Beltane is the cross-quarter festival between spring equinox and summer solstice. And it's a Celtic fire festival. And it's representative of fertility and union and things coming into full bloom. It honors really what is really one of the coolest things that I think is like bringing balance between the masculine and the feminine energies that we live in. It's the sacred union of earth, which is more feminine, and sky, which is masculine, of spirit and body, soil and sky, all these things that coming together, these unions, they symbolize this more of an inner wholeness rather than this outer romance. They call it the celebration of the love that abides. And I love this because the marriage of heaven and earth is something to celebrate. But when we think about it, not just in terms of something outside of us, but we can bring this awareness in and start to recognize what metaphorically is our earth and our sky. So if we were to think about our sky being our mind, and what what thoughts are we having? What thoughts are we entertaining in our mind? I know we've all experienced the swirl of thoughts of fear and fear-based thinking. A lot of times we'll bring our painful past into our fearful future. It's not the unknown so much that we are afraid of, but rather the our painful past still informing what we believe it's going to be in our future because we haven't accepted our past yet. So I love this idea of being very present and clearing our thoughts and coming down into the earth, from the sky to the earth, and the earth would be literally our hearts and what lives in there. And could we possibly live a more heart-led life? Um, so in European traditions, I'm just going to give a little more context here about Beltane. And this idea of the cross-quarter festivals that so many people in ancient times who were really tied to the earth because they were living on the land, and they were their gardens and the way that they lived and moved through their lives was so tied to the earth that they were very much a part of. We are not in nature, we are nature. And so they would celebrate these, not just spring and autumn equinox, and not just winter and summer solstice, but these other celebrations that were in this liminal space that a lot of people aren't aware of now. And I love to bring more attention to these subtle liminal cross-quarter celebrations because they can be really potent for creating some rituals within your own life on bringing attention to, like, how am I in relationship to myself, which is part of nature, and how am I in relationship to nature out in outside of me. So in European traditions, maypoles, people would dance around them to awaken the fertility of the land. People would also, they would light fires and they would leap over the fires for purification and blessing. So almost like asking yourself, what am I willing to give up to the fire? What am I willing to let go of so I can make space for something new? coming out of the winter when things are fallow. And fallow means not dead. It means that something is like gestating. It's underneath, like when we plant bulbs in the ground during the winter or before winter, like in the fall, and they seem dead because they're not growing. It doesn't mean that they're dead. They're fallow, which means that they're gestating. They're getting ready to percolate and come up in the spring. So now, this time, this Beltane is between the spring and the summer. So everything is blossoming. We look outside and we can see the fruition of fruit starting to come onto the trees, the little buds and the flowers and all the different colors on the trees. And it's just a time to celebrate. In fact, excuse me, they're getting over a little cold here. Back in the day, young lovers, or even now, might spend the night out in the woods, and this was called a greenwood marriage, and it's a symbolic act of union with nature and with one another, which I think is very beautiful. But I show up here to kind of share this information with you because I love to remember that the most enduring union of all that we forge is the one within, between the parts of ourselves that we've maybe forgotten about, the parts of us that we've othered or kind of left behind because they seem kind of shadowy and not the best parts of ourselves. And also the love that abides within each of us that's been waiting to welcome us back home. And this is what I speak to a lot every time we meet, and it's the work I do with clients and groups and on retreats. And it's been my own journey, so it's something that I'm very passionate about and that I love to speak about as well. So I'm just going to ask a few questions here. If you are watching this recording later, I would love for you to, if you want to pause this and go get a journal and have time to kind of ponder these questions I'm going to ask you. The first question is, what part of me has been waiting for my return? What part of myself has been waiting for my return? And then the next question, what would it look like to move toward myself with devotion instead of criticism? Like to start paying attention to what is my inner dialogue? How do I speak to myself? How do I speak about myself to even to other people? And here's another question. Where has my self-love gone fallow? Like maybe it seems like it's not there. It's always there, but sometimes it seems to us because we haven't accessed it or it's not familiar. No one showed us how to tend to our own inner realm, our own inner garden. I love to think of this, our inner realm, as a sanctuary, a place for us to return to over and over. And so this question is I love to ask this question to women and hear what every different person has to say about their own inner sanctum. If you were to build a garden inside of you, what would it look like? Would it be a Zen garden? Would it be wild? I think we spoke to this last time we met. Would it be a place that is very like an English garden where it's very aligned and symmetrical, or was it more wild, like a jungle garden with wildflowers and vines and things like that? And everybody has their own version, and that can change as we come and go through our lives, the different seasons of our own lives. What would that inner garden even look like? And I also love the idea of letting it be all things. It can be a Zen garden over here. It could be wild and crazy over here. And that is beautiful because it's yours and you're tending to it. So that question, where has my self-love gone fallow? And what would actually nourish it now? What would feel nourishing to my garden, my inner realm? And then another question, what am I ready to receive from myself that I have longed for from others? So our sacred needs are to be seen, heard, and held or understood. And so often we are seeking that seeing, that holding, that feeling heard from others, when actually the one who matters the most is ourselves. And so that's a question that I think can be, when we really slow down and contemplate it, give ourselves some time to maybe journal and see what comes up there. Um, what am I ready to receive from myself that I've longed for from others? If you're just coming in now, welcome in. I'm kind of going through some reflective questions for anyone, even now, if you want to share in the chat, or if you're watching this recording later, maybe pausing this so you can go back and see, as you write these questions out, these contemplations, what that would actually, what is actually coming up for you. Okay. And then the last question is, what if I was the one I've been waiting for? One of my teachers asked this question a few years ago. I'm sorry, I have a total frog in my throat. Excuse me. She asked this question of us, and it's never left me. And she asked it in the negative, but I'm going to ask it in the positive. What would it feel like? What a gift would it feel like to create an alliance with the only person who could never leave you, which is you? And I think I wrote that on a 3x5 card, and I had it in my house, in my home. And I would look at it often because I would wonder, what would that be like? Because I had never done that. And if I'm really honest, I don't think I'd ever seen another woman in my life model that. Tending to themselves, tending to this inner realm of theirs, a garden, a place to come home to that feels safe. And so maybe taking some time to think about some of those questions and write them down and see what comes up for you. It'd be very beautiful. Turning more to these metaphors of heaven and earth. The earth is the heart. It's steady, it's grounded, it's feeling based, and it's alive. And if we think about, like, when we slow down and we take a few deep breaths, we're coming home to this space. If we can come down out of the swirl of our mind, where heaven is the metaphor, we're talking about Beltane here and the marriage of heaven and earth. Yesterday was May Day. It's a Celtic tradition, those of you just coming in. And so I'm kind of speaking to this beautiful season when it's between spring equinox and summer solstice. So everything is coming alive. And right now, so many traditions in Celtic and in Europe over there, they celebrate May Day and they dance around the maypole, and it's the rituals of fire and things coming to life and this marriage of heaven and earth. So I'm bringing this Beltane ritual kind of back into a more metaphorical way to think and be, that the sky is our mind, and often it is swirling with thoughts that we aren't even aware we're thinking. But it also can be, when we're more aware and conscious of our thoughts, it can actually become the realm of story and inspiration and clarity. And this space here, when we come down out of our thoughts, down into our heart and breathe right here, if we could live from our hearts, what would that be like? To live feeling grounded and steady and like we're home, that we're not living in a place of fear or swirl. And the beautiful thing about this idea of marrying heaven and earth, these two spaces, that aren't so far from each other, but a lot of times they seem like eons away from each other when we're not aware of our thoughts and we aren't coming home to our heart. But the one trick, one life hack that I love to speak to and I often use, and I work with my clients a lot, is our breath. Our breath actually becomes the bridge between heaven and earth, our thoughts and our heart, the swirl and our home. And it literally connects them. It's crazy to now know, science has now been able to show us that our heart has even more neurons in it than our brain, which is crazy. Wasn't raised believing that or knowing that. In fact, I was raised not really knowing much about my brain and neuroplasticity and epigenetics. These are the things they didn't know and they weren't speaking to back then. But our breath is the bridge because it connects these two places. If we allow it, it marries them. And what I love about our breath is we can't breathe in the past or the future. We can only breathe now. So when we anchor in meditation, we talk a lot about anchoring into our breath. And an anchor is like when you're sitting meditating, you tune in to your breath. What does it feel like when you're breathing? Oh, my lungs are expanding and contracting. I can feel the breath coming in and out of my nose or my mouth. And you're anchoring in to being right here with your breath, not pulled to the past with your thoughts or to the future with your thoughts, but being right here, right now with your breath. And this is how you can bridge heaven and earth inside of you, is believing that every inhale is a returning back home and every exhale is a release of what no longer serves you. So in the Beltane festival, we talked about that they would light fires and they would leap over them and they would be thinking about, what is it that I want to give to the fire so it can be burned and purified and given up. And so every time we're exhaling, it's like a mini jumping over the fire because we can release what we're aware of. Oh, the swirl. I want to release this swirl, my thoughts that keep me stuck in my past and thinking about my future when really all I ever have is now. So if we can stay with our breath as that bridge of love, um, we can, that is one of the most powerful tools, and we don't use it. We don't use it because it's always with us and we're not aware of it and we aren't bringing an intention into our breath. When we're swirling, when we're sad, when we're anxious, when we can bring a little more stillness into our day and just put our hand on our heart. I'm going to talk about this later. Some of the practical tools of being able to um, come back home and be the one that stays instead of being in our thoughts and dismissing the part of us that's wanting to be seen, held, and understood and heard. So, we're going to talk a little bit about how we've kind of been taught to reach for love, but now we're going to root into it because it's here. The love that we've been seeking in anything outside of us, whether it's a relationship or a job or a home or like a car, some possession that we might think may validate us or make us feel more worthy or more right in the world, that love is here and it's always there and it's waiting for us to return. So, this saying I love, it's, if it doesn't begin within, it will always feel incomplete. I don't know if you've ever thought of that for yourself, that if it doesn't begin within, a lot of times I'll speak to this idea that if we haven't given love here, it's really impossible to think that we can give it to someone else. It won't be to the depth that we would like it to be or think that it is if it hasn't been seeded and experienced within ourselves. Then all we are giving to someone else is this type of love that's been given to us that, let's be honest, there's a lot of conditions on the love that has been given to us. For me, my lived experience was so beautiful. My family, I had this lovely family and parents that were so just amazing. But as I've started to work with people and sit with other people and myself, I've realized no one was modeling for us what it looked like, what it felt like, what it was possibly like to give love here first. In fact, um, what I saw modeled by most of the people in my life was a lot of service to other people and a lot of exhaustion because of giving that service to other people, or that love or that care, that tending to all the things outside of them, whether it was people in their community, people in their church groups, their own families, their extended families, their friends, all the people that they could think to serve. And it was lovely, but then they would be depleted. And now I sit with enough people where this has been all they've ever known. And they come to me as a therapist to do a deeper work because they realize that's not sustainable. And it wasn't sustainable for the people that they were watching doing it all their lives through generations. And it's kind of been handed down to us. But now they want to do something different because they realize that wasn't healthy and it wasn't helpful. And so now they're more willing to turn in and tune in and do this inner work for themselves. You're going to hear my grandsons out here. I'm in Hawaii right now. Um, and I'm visiting my son and his wife and their two kids. So that's what you're hearing. Okay. So this idea, I want to ask you if you would be willing to think about if you were to think of yourself today being part of the Maypole Festival and lighting a fire and jumping over with all the other people in the community, jumping over a fire, what is it that you would be willing to have burn up? I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. I don't know, you may have your own, but what are the stories you tell yourself when you're scared, when you're afraid, when you are stuck in the swirl? What are your stories that you're telling yourself? Have you ever written them down? Have you ever been willing to slow down enough to be like, what is it that I'm actually afraid of? Are they old stories or narratives or beliefs of your own unworthiness? Well, I don't deserve that because I didn't deserve it as a kid. Okay. Fear. Rania, thank you. Fear and lack of resources. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. That's a very real one too. Very real. And yet, if I were to ask you, Rania, how that feels in your body when you're in fear and you're feeling like there isn't enough, there's not enough to go around, I'm not going to be okay. Is there a place in your body that you actually feel that fear? Sometimes it shows up as regret or shame or perfectionism or self-doubt. But as we think about these things, and as you have time, whether you're here now or whether you're watching this later, I invite you to be really honest with yourself when you're asking these questions. Anxiety and self-doubt. Yeah, that maybe I can't do it. Maybe I'm not the one who can save myself. And sometimes we've talked about this this was one of our themes in one of our past gatherings, is this idea that what if what if no one's coming to save me? What if I'm the one who has to save me? But when you ask it in those terms, can you see how there is fear in that question? Because we're asking it with what if, with fear. Like, what if no one is coming to save me? Because think of every fairy tale, every Disney story, there's a hero, and someone else is coming to save that person, the damsel in distress. And that's the story that we've been fed and taught that someone else is going to be the one who saves us. And when we start to shift and get more clear on, wait, whoa, was it ever meant to be that way, that someone's coming to save me and I'm just going to sit here and wait for that to happen? Can you see how that's kind of disempowering? But the idea that I get to, so it's not like, what if no one comes? What if it's like, wait, what if I get to be the one who comes? Can you see how like there's a shift in energy there? What if I get to be the one who stays? I get to be the one who actually shows up for me when I'm feeling all of these things, Rania, you just said, the fear, the feeling that there isn't enough, that I'm not going to be okay. It's scary. And I kind of doubt myself because I've always believed that maybe that was the work of someone else to come and save me. So, this idea of offering up our old stories of unworthiness or shame or doubt, if we could offer all the things that no longer serve us, because they stay swirling up here in our mind, in our heaven. And really, maybe as we offer it to the fire, maybe it's not so much to be destroyed as we offer it up, but it's more to transmute it, to take that energy, like I just said, not what if no one's coming, but what if I get to be the one? Can you see how it takes that old energy of fear and it takes it and empowers yourself to be the one who stays? That's very different. That's where our power lies. And this is the work that I love to do with women, especially men too. Yes, I work with men as well. But somehow, intrinsically, women have come to believe that they can't trust themselves or that they need to doubt themselves. And I don't know, I do know that this is a wounded yin or feminine energy, is to hide and to isolate and to kind of retract and be closed off, right? That's a wounded feminine energy. But if we think back to the most powerful of all energy that created everything that is, it starts with yin, feminine energy. That seed is feminine. And from a healthy seed comes that yin, feminine energy. Always, always, if a healthy expression of yin is here and it's creative, it's fallow, it's percolating, it's getting ready to birth something, and it sits here and it's creative force, that life force energy. And then from a true yin energy will always have to be the expression of a true yang or yang, however you want to pronounce that. My teachers always said yang, yin and yang, which is masculine energy. So that seed starts feminine, and then the expression and the growth of that seed is the masculine. And it's that pow and it's that empowerment of, oh my goodness, I get to be the one who saves me. So these two, the marriage of masculine and feminine right now in Beltane is the marriage of heaven and earth, of sky and and earth, of the masculine and the feminine coming together and one making the other true because they work together to be balanced. So if the masculine or if the feminine wounded is more staying here and never giving expression to, never allowing the masculine to arrive to do its work, then it stays wounded. A masculine wounded energy, we've experienced that a lot because we're living in a world now where there's a lot of wounded masculine going on, and we have a toxic masculine where it's more controlling and domineering, and it doesn't make much space for the conscious feminine to arrive and be equal in power to create this beautiful energetic dance that wants to take place. I see the feminine, the conscious feminine, the divine feminine is coming back to create more balance. And it's going to take some time, but I see it happening. I sit with women and men who are saying, yes, it's time to honor the feminine in a way it's never been honored. So men can become more healed, that masculine energy that wants to create the structure for the feminine, the conscious, healed and whole feminine to be able to do that dance, that creative life force energy right here within the construct of a conscious masculine. So that's what this time of year is about in all the ancient traditions. Okay, so there's a story of I can't remember if this is an old Celtic story, but there's a story of a woman who wandered out into a forest and she wanted to find healing, and she knew that going back to nature would maybe help her do that. So she went out into a forest and she sat in the trees and she asked them how to be loved. And the wind came and it whispered, "Be still and remember." But she didn't understand. What, remember what? I can be still and I'm sitting here, but I still don't remember. And so she walked a little further and she came across a pond. And she looked into the pond and she saw her reflection, which was actually very worn and weary and a little bit wild and confused. And she was about to turn away from the pond and her own reflection, but then something made her pause. And for the first time, she didn't run, she didn't flinch, she didn't shut down, and she didn't get busy. She stayed. And she knelt down and she took a deep breath and she put her hand on her heart and she said, "I will stay. I will stay here with my reflection and I won't leave." And then the forest whispered, "And now, my dear, you have come home." So I love this idea. I was raised in a city, like in the suburbs. And yeah, we would go hiking or we would go up to Mount Diablo. I was in Northern California in Walnut Creek, a beautiful, beautiful place just outside of San Francisco. And that will always be home to me. It's such a beautiful place with the green rolling hills and the big oak and walnut trees. Um, and we would go there often, we would go up into Tahoe and stuff, and I loved that. But somehow after I got married and got busy raising kids, I stopped turning to nature in order to commune, like to feel close and connected to all that is. And in these last probably 5 or 6 years, as I was traveling, I had a lot of opportunities to travel because of a gift that a friend gave me who worked for the airline. So I had a pass to travel. And I spent a lot of time out in nature, in beautiful places in different regions of the world. And it was like a literal homecoming for me because as I sat in these beautiful places, I was able to be more still. I was alone mostly as I traveled, solo travel, and that became like a blessing that I didn't understand in the moment of a homecoming to me because I was out in these beautiful places and I was more still. I didn't have all the distractions of my children were grown by then. And it became nature became sacred for me because I was able to go out and be in nature, but realize I'm not in nature. I am nature. I am a part of it. And I realized that as I was more still, I was able to quiet my thoughts and just be still. And that's when my own self-love started to grow. And I stopped looking and thinking about the people outside of me that had never modeled that for me. And I realized, without even knowing it, I'm the one who's going to find my love. I'm not going to wait for some man to come along or a friendship or anything else to come along to save me. I get to be the one that creates an alliance with the only person who can never leave me, and that is me. And that is an honor. And how blessed I am to finally understand that. And yes, I'm not young, but I don't consider myself old. I think they're just numbers. What we feel right in here is our soul, and it's eternal. It doesn't have an age. So I love this idea. Okay, I am going to speak to some practical ways, some tangible ways, because I sit with clients and I sit with people, and even here, people will be like, how do you do that? How do you begin to love yourself and love on yourself? And I'm going to just give a few little bullet points here. If you're watching this, you can write them down, or even if you're here now, you can write them down. And I invite you to maybe pick one or two. Maybe all of them won't resonate with you, and that's okay. But maybe pick the ones that feel like, even as I'm speaking these, if you want to close your eyes and feel into, oh, I would love to try that. Or no, that's not mine. That doesn't feel aligned. Okay, this is good. You're starting to flex the muscle of trust. Like, oh, this is for me, that's not for me. And this is good. This is how we start to come home and trust ourselves, trust our heart to guide us, and come back to the love that has never been missed, it's never been not there. We just lost track of it. We forgot that we actually are abundance. We don't ever need to feel, whenever we're feeling in lack, we're separated from the love and the abundance that we actually are. And I didn't understand this. So Rania, when you said this, the lack of resources, yes, I completely see you and I feel you and I understand that. You are not the first person to say this. It's so true, because we were conditioned to believe that we're separate from the love. So we're seeking it out here. We're craving it, but not realizing that it actually does exist here. So these are some of the ways for you to be able to tune in, and to start creating that alliance with yourself. So one of the first things that that I think is kind of cool is to name your inner beloved. Have you given yourself a name, like your soul? Maybe it's your own name that was given to you by your parents, your family name. Maybe it's something else that wants to arrive. Have you ever sat in stillness and thought, if I were to name this love that abides here, my highest self, whatever you want to call it, what would I name her? Does it have a texture? Is there a certain scent that speaks to you? So if you were to write a love letter to your inner beloved, and you were to write to her once a day, even if it was just one line, would you begin a love letter now to yourself? And what would that feel like? So that's the first one. Speak to yourself, give her a name. Think of, like sit in some stillness and think of her as something that lights you up. Like, oh yes, these are the smells that I love. This is the texture. These are the textures that I love, that comfort me. And bring all of that into this inner beloved that's here, and start to create that space here that feels really comforting to come home to, and start writing to her. What would you say? What would she say to you? Okay. Then this is something that I have done, that one of my teachers taught me, that I really love. People come into my home and I have an altar. I have an altar there. It's a place where I light a candle, and I do it with intention. I do it every morning. Sometimes I let that candle burn the whole day, and I use different colors for different symbols of what I'm working with in my life right then, whether it's abundance is green and growth and new things coming in. Red is passion and feeling passion for life and myself and my path. But an altar can be whatever you make it. It can be a corner of your space in your room. It can be I have it on my dresser, and you're going to bring to that the things that reflect your radiance, the things that reflect this inner realm, this garden that you're growing, this part of you, your inner beloved. It can have photos, flowers. You can put a mirror there. You can put a love note to yourself. I have some crystals. um, I have pictures of myself as a little girl. I have a picture of my mother. Um, and that's a beautiful thing. And you can think of it as your altar of beauty, an altar to yourself, this inner realm of yours it's a reminder to look at and be like, I'm on this path back home to the one that's always been there waiting patiently for me to arrive. Okay. The third thing that people maybe have some stickiness around this, but this is maybe something that may not resonate so much, but you may be curious about. And it's speaking adoration to yourself, but speaking it out loud, saying something kind to yourself in the mirror daily. And this isn't a task, it's actually a moment of reverence. You get to sit there and not be busy, but to tend to yourself and say something kind to yourself. Have you thought of how often you say nice things to others or you give compliments to even strangers? When was the last time you actually said something really nice and thoughtful to you? Okay, then there's another one here. Um, every morning, because I've lived in Arizona and Utah where it's really, really dry, I always love to put coconut oil all over my legs and my arms. I just get really dry. So I love to do that. And I do it when I get out of the shower. And now I've started to create like a little ceremony out of it. It's not just like putting oil on my body. It's actually tending to my body slowly, like I'm just anointing sacred ground because this is my one instrument that I've been given. This is my temple, and I want to tend to it in a way that is reverent because it is. I'm reverent. I'm reverent in with myself now. We've talked about what our diet is. Our diet is not just what we're putting in our mouths and eating, it's what we're listening to, what we're watching, what we're allowing in our space is our diet. So as we tend to our bodies in all the ways that we do, it's not just our body, it's our mind and our soul. Um, how are we touching our body? How are we tending to it? How are we treating it like the temple that it is? Okay. Then I have two more. This is the reminder. It's kind of a ritual. You create a ritual around being the one who stays. I know we've talked about this too, and it's very beautiful. I speak to this a lot because when you are feeling like when you're scared and you're in that limbic system of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is people pleasing, and we do that when we're kind of stressed. We'll take the attention from what is going on in here and we'll tend to someone else before tending here. So this ritual of being the one who stays is when we're feeling in the precise moment when we would rather do anything but stay, we actually pause and we take a deep breath and we literally say, I'm the one who stays, or I'm not going anywhere, or whatever works for you. I'm right here. I love you. I see you. I feel you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm the one who stays, or I'm staying. I stay. Whatever that looks or feels like for you. And that is the beginning of self-love. Self-love is not a destination. People think, well, when I can do that, it's actually being the one who stays with you. That's that's self-love. And when you start to do it, actually do it, one of these things that I'm saying, or multiple of them, you start to realize I get to be the one who gives this to me. And what a gift that this is for me, because you start to see how it changes your whole life. It changes the energy that you're living in. It changes your swirl. You stop swirling. You start being aware of, oh my goodness, I haven't been saying very nice things to myself. I haven't been showing up for me. The last one is to actually set a timer on your phone, and several times a day. It could be on the hour. I have an app that it does like a little bell, like a ding, and it's an invitation to pause. And I don't pause for very long, even if it's just for like 30 seconds. And I'm still, and I just put my hand on my heart and I'm aware I'm right here. Because we get so busy in our days. I'm not saying you need to do it every hour on the hour. That might be excessive for some of you, or maybe you're like, that's how I want to start. I want to start every hour on the hour by just a recognition of, oh, that's right. I'm so busy right now. I'm not even present. I haven't been present once. I've been thinking about all the things I need to be doing instead of just being. Maybe you want to set a timer for 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And you place a hand on your heart and you breathe. And what this is doing is it's creating spaciousness for your nervous system. Like, oh, I am right here. I'm not alone. I am here with me. And I am held. I am the one who stays, and I am holding myself. And this isn't about perfection. It's not like, oh, I must do this right. It's actually about presence. It's about a vow to return home again and again to the one who's still there waiting for you to show up for her. So, those are little practical ways that I hope you could use those to be more present with yourself. Okay. Okay. So that this is a sacred time of year for me because yesterday, 4 years ago, was when I moved to Italy, and was I felt so compelled to move there. And when I arrived there on May Day, there were a lot of people in Italy that have this tradition, and I have some friends over there that invited me to go spend that time with them, and it was really sacred because it was like a new start for me. Now I'm back in America, and there's a new start here. So it doesn't matter where we are in the world or what's going on in our lives. If we are just going through the motions of life, never slowing down to be more intentional, asking questions, coming home, we miss out on so much of the beauty of our lives. Then we look back someday and we think that was it. That's as good as it gets. So I've been there in my life when I've asked that question. Is this as good as it gets? In dark times of my life. And I realized that yes, I'm connected to all that is, and I do believe in deity, but I also believe that when I'm feeling disconnected here, it's really hard for me to be connected to deity, to spirit, to source, to God, whatever you want to call it. So when I'm tending here, then somehow it's a bridge as I'm coming home here and tending here to the love that is here. It creates a bridge and a connection to God. Somehow I feel very guided, very held, not just by myself, but by all that is. I don't know if that feels strange to you or if you understand that. As I've sat with clients, they often say, yes, that's exactly how I feel too. So I'm like, okay, that's not just me. So maybe that's been your experience too. Or if it hasn't been your experience, maybe this is an invitation to take the time to do that. Okay. Anyone is here, for anyone that is here now, if you would like any support in anything that's moving through your life right now that feels like a challenge or maybe a cycle, something that keeps playing out in your life, or even a roadblock, I'd love to support you if you're willing to come forward and raise your hand or just unmute yourself and come off of your camera. If not, I totally understand that too. But I want you to know that this space that I offer here is for support. If there is something in your life that feels challenging and familiar, but not good, then please come forward. And I would love to share some of my own training and some of the methods that I help other people with. And even if you want to share a win, this is the thing when I sit with people, we get so conditioned to, even when people come to therapy, they get conditioned to just focus on the negative, like all the negative things that have happened, the stories, the narratives of their lives that have felt heavy. And yes, there's space for that always. but then I'm trying to help people understand where our attention goes, our energy flows. So if we're only ever thinking about all the negative, it will remain so. When we start to deliberately give attention and energy to our wins, the things that are beautiful, that we are happy about in our lives, the things that make us feel alive, when we start to concentrate on those, guess what happens? Where our attention goes, our energy flows and it grows. That just happened to rhyme. It's not something that is like a tricky thing to say, but it's a beautiful way to be in relationship with life and with yourself, is honoring the things that are working, the things that you do love. Um, so, okay. I am grateful for those of you who were able to take some time out of your day. This is an act of self-care. You showing up here is a little radical. We never saw our parents, especially the women in our lives, I never saw them having time to tend to themselves. So you being here today is, whether you're watching this, whether you're here now with us or whether you're watching this later, this is a radical act of self-care. Pat yourself on the back, celebrate this win. This is you tending to this inner realm, this garden that you're building, this space, this home that will start to feel more and more comforting and alive because you chose to stay and be the one to nurture and tend to this. So I want to say thank you. I want to say I'm starting a new group of like a 3-month course found in coming home. Really, it's a journey of like being willing to be a little more still, because when we're so busy, it's impossible to tend to ourselves. So it's talking about all the things that we talk about here, but it goes much deeper in giving tools and resources how to tend to yourself and find that version of you that is abundant and loving and waiting for you to arrive. And it's a 3-month course starting in June. So I just want to say thank you for being here. I love and believe in you. And if you have any questions, you can DM me on @thebuffaloqueen on Instagram, or on my website. You can email me. So thank you once again for being here, and namaste.